Good day to all Inderes TV listeners and viewers. Enento publishes Q3 results today, and on this video we will discuss that with CEO Jeanette Jäger. Welcome, Jeanette.
Thank you.
So we could start the interview with the traditional question of Enento's Q3 highlights, if you could go through it.
Well, if I would like to underline a couple of highlights, I would say that, of course, one highlight of ours is that we, during the third quarter, got the information of what is the proposed measurements for decreasing the over-indebtedness in Sweden. And we believe those proposed are actually very good both for society at large, but also for us, as we can start think long-term on how do we continue to develop our credit register for Sweden. What kind of tech do we use forward? We can have a dialogue with consumer on the long term, looking at adding new data to it. So I think that is something which is very, very important also on the long term for the company as such. So that is one thing. I would also raise that we had, of course, executed on our cost efficiency program. We closed our 10 million cost efficiency program now successfully in Q3, so 1 quarter ahead of time, which I also would like to underline. Then we continue to see really nice growth in Norway, Denmark. We can also see BI picking up here in Finland. And then, of course, a highlight that I need to bring forward again is that we do see that, yes, we see a stabilization in the consumer credit for Sweden, but we don't yet see that it's picking up. And actually, in that sense, we don't see the volumes come in Sweden or in Finland.
We will go to the Swedish market later on, but maybe first about the efficiency program now that you reached the 10 million target. Is the profitability going forward more dependent on the demand outlook, or do you still see some need for new efficiency measures given that the profitability is still challenged?
Yeah, profitability is still challenged, and you are already on it when you say what is the demand outlook. So as we are stating, the margin is heavily dependent on which services is driving the revenue, which is then going also for how the margin will develop. And at the moment, we have what we call a negative sales mix for us as areas where we have been driving scale, where we have high cost, but also high cost meaning that we have a high level of fixed cost, but also good margins, means that when those volumes go down, we can't necessarily decrease the costs. They stay. That affects the margin. Then on the other hand, it means also that if we would see how the market development at some point to a more positive end, yes, then it would also be a positive effect on the margin. So actually there's a lot behind the word sales mix for us.
So at the moment you don't see any need for additional efficiency program measures?
We are at the moment, to start with, we are happy with closing the first one today.
Yeah.
And also doing that successfully. And as we are stating in the report today, we will not continue to report on that program or any new program at this point. But of course, we will be very cost conscious and keep a close eye on how this is development. But in the short term, now for Q4, we haven't yet seen the increase in the consumer volumes.
You mentioned in Q2 report that you will increase some marketing activities now in H2. So have you been able to do so, and what has been the reception for the new
Those
products?
are actually planned for Q4 at this point. So the answer is very short. We can't see anything of what is the results of that, as they haven't started yet.
All right. Then let's move on to the Swedish market. This fall, there has been again this discussion about the indebtedness in Sweden.
Yes.
And there has been a proposal that the license-based credit register won't be taken into action. And you have previously commented that you are against it. So how do you overall see this decision now? Or it's not yet a decision, but how do you see?
It's a proposal for a decision, and again, we see that according to official sources, it is most probably so that we will get some kind of decision in the end of November. I would say, how do we see this? Well, we do see that the measures that the government is proposing are good and efficient measures to actually get that we prevent over-indebtedness also short to mid-term, and that it will have effect. The government itself says that this is quite, strong initiatives they are proposing, and yes, we do agree they are, and they are starting to come into play now from March 25 and forward. So in that sense, I do believe that the government has made a very good job. And we are quite aware that they have put in a lot of effort to really find out what makes a difference. They have looked at also what about the credit info, and I can't say what their conclusion is, but they on the credit info quality, that is not for me to say. But what they're stating is also very clear, and that is we have to use the credit info we have. That is important also. I mean, we are stating that we have an almost 100% coverage on the data, but it needs to be used to get there. All in all, I would say good for society, I think, that this will have an effect. So the purpose is there, and I think we will see the results of it. We will see more of a stability into the Swedish consumer credit arena.
As you mentioned, the discussion has been now related to other measures, for example, interest rate caps. So how do you see these affecting the market in the short term? I would imagine it's negative in the short term. How do you see next year?
Yeah, for the market, if you say negative, then we are back to what about the market and the volumes in it. Of course, for a sustainable long-term society, it is good if it is sustainable, if I might say so. But if we look at it short term, I think that we can expect that we will see effects on, for example, unsecured lending with high interest rates on the market, yes.
Can you elaborate your exposure to these unsecured higher interest rate loans? So how exposed are you to those?
I would say that we have limited. We are limited when it comes to how much we are exposed to the unsecured lending, high interest rates. Though your question is actually also connected to do we see that this will affect us? And I presume, and therefore I'm also saying even though these kind of loans we have limited exposure to, we should also remember that all these initiatives in total will have an effect on the lending market volumes in total. And how much that will be remains to be seen. This is something we will keep a close eye on and analyze.
If thinking overall about the Swedish market, the household indebtedness is still quite high after a long kind of debt cycle. So how do you see the long-term growth outlook in the market if the goal is to now lower the indebtedness?
Yeah, well, is your question connected to how I see it will actually lower indebtedness or how it will
affect your demand?
Yeah.
Long term?
So when it comes to the demand, this is a little bit tricky because we are, of course, in a situation, it has been shared many times, where we are on quite low levels for, if you compare with earlier years on the Swedish consumer credit market. Though at the same time, this will have an effect on the total volume. So how much will this net out? That is to be seen forward.
All right, then maybe end the interview with outlook, and we have started to see interest rates declining quite a lot this fall. So have you started to see any positive effects on your demand? For example, in Finland, we have started seeing some positive signs in the real estate market. So how does it look to you?
Yeah. I'm sorry to say no. We do see that there is some positive signs on interest when it comes to real estate market, but those interests, and that is actually going both for Finland and Sweden, hasn't yet really turned into new volumes.
All right, thank you, Jeanette, for your answers and for the interview. Hope you all the best for the rest of the year.
Thank you very much.